All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Simple Markets channel. We have a pretty packed video today, so I'm going to try to get right into it here. We're going to go over not only 4 of my most recent trades here, a couple losers, a winner, and a break even to get a really broad view. We're going to talk a lot about the strategy document that we have here that is downloadable for free. And then we're going to dive a little bit into FxReplay and the data that we have collected and proven for this trading strategy with a visual representation of our equity curve. So let's get right into it here, and we'll start with the document. For those of you that have seen this before, you can pull yours up and follow along. And for those of you that have not seen this before, go down to the description. We have the free download. You simply click the link there. It'll bring you to the download page on our website, and you can get it directly sent to your email. We have our whole community trading this exact strategy, but as you can see, there is about 20 plus pairs here that we trade, and some even nearing the 30s with the amount of pairs that they trade. It's variable. It doesn't make a big difference in the strategy overall. You're going to have a consistent edge regardless. Some people prefer to manage more pairs. Some people have a harder time with doing too many, so they'll limit it. But this is a step we can kind of skip over here. The most important part is going to be that simple entry checklist. Now, higher time frame bias, this is an optional step here, and it's because it's something that I personally don't focus on as well as the other coaches. Because at the end of the day, many of you know, we follow simplicity and mechanical trading here, and we find that a higher time frame bias is one of the most discretionary concepts, especially in the SMC space. So in most cases, it is as simple as looking at a chart and seeing if it's going up or down. This helps keep it very simple and consistent, and if you cannot establish whether a chart is bullish or bearish by looking at it, then you may be trading an oscillating or consolidating market, and I would recommend avoiding it anyways. Step 2 in the first analytical step here is going to be a sweep on liquidity. This is very simple for most of you. If you don't know what this concept is, I have a whole series on my channel showing sweeps, structure, and volume in the markets and going over those 3 different concepts. But the general idea is a significant sweep on price action. If you want to be more aggressive and take more trades, which will overall increase your profit in the longer term, you could take less significant liquidity sweeps, but keep in mind the win rate might be slightly lower, and vice versa for those of you that like to be conservative. You can focus on those really big and clear liquidity sweeps and having your stop loss with a great strong low or high, and that will increase your win rate but lower your profit longer term because of the less repetitions on trades. The next step here is going to be displacement, which is kind of a combination of 2 concepts here, structure and volume. We specifically look for a 4-hour candle close above or below the break of structure, and just simply a FVG within that range, a fair value gap. This shows us one of 2 things. The candle close and the fair value gap show us that there's high volume in the markets, and pairing that with something like a break of structure shows us that we may be on the right side of the markets. In combining these concepts together, we then put a fib at the 75% of the trading range, and this gives us our simple and mechanical entry level. Every time we can assure that we are entering the trade at the 75%, and that creates a fixed 3 risk to reward automatically, because we have our stop loss at the low and our take profit at the high, or vice versa in sells. Risk management here is very simple, but can change depending on what your main goals are. If you are an evaluation trader or trading with firms, it can be a little bit different than this. We have all types of strategies we go over in our community. But if you're someone like me who simply just uses a personal trading account, I would recommend 1% or even a little higher if you're comfortable. But we always break even at 1 RR. And we have targets at 3 RR fixed, as we talked about above. But instead of going over some of the trade examples we have here on the document and some of the takeaways below, I recommend you guys download the document and go over those yourself. We're going to actually look at some of my most recent live trades in the market, and I'll go through the checklist as we do. Now, one of the first trades we're going to be going over is EURGBP, which is Euro Canadian dollar here. I very simply looked at the chart and saw that we were trending upward, which gives me that bullish sentiment. And one of the first analytical pieces we talked about was a sweep on liquidity. These are typically areas where you see consolidation followed by a high volume move to push out those orders in the market and then convert that into buy side orders in a buy scenario like this. But essentially, in quick terms, what is happening here is as the markets consolidate, a lot of orders in the form of limits rest at the low and the high of this range. So what price action will do and what institutions will do is target those areas by pushing price through them, converting those orders into buy-side liquidity, and reaching into these areas where there's a lot of orders allows for institutions to then place their very large-scale orders into the market and pushing price significantly higher with this very high volume we're seeing. So step 1 with the sweep of liquidity is out of the way. We talked about high volume a little bit here, which we like to see a fair value gap and a break of structure, both being shown here. And very simply, we can take our Fibonacci from the low to the high of the range, draw it on there, and then set our pending order. Yes, for many of you, this may seem extremely simple. And for those of you in the SMC space for a long time studying many concepts like I did myself, I can understand this almost doesn't seem like it would work in the long term. But that is why I will show you our nearly 30,000 trades taken using this exact trading strategy and showing an overall win rate of about 36.5% with 3 risk to reward. Now keep in mind, the break-even rule I mentioned is not logged here, so this is called your realized win rate, which means you are winning about 1 in every 3 trades and a little bit more, but without using the break-even, you're looking at about a 36.5% win rate. If you do use the break-even, it's closer to that 58 to 60% level, meaning that you only lose capital on about 40% of your trades overall. And with a 3 risk to reward, that is a fantastic return. This here is FxReplay. It is one of the best softwares, in my opinion, for backtesting and tracking data on your strategy. It gives you all sorts of metrics like what symbols you traded, the amount of time per pair, the win rate on each individual pair, and as well as keeps track of your historical time period, your win rate, your buys and sells, and many more metrics. And as a little bonus for you guys, if you go into the description of this video as well, we actually have an affiliate code with FxReplay. I love the software. You guys can actually download it for yourselves for a discount using that code. Feel free to check it out. I highly recommend the software. We use it with all of our students. And just to visualize this data a little bit better, I have an equity curve simulator that I've pulled up here, and I've actually typed in the exact metrics that we talked about. Now, I actually don't trade with this firm, to be honest with you. I only have an account for this metric. I'm a US resident, so I'm not allowed to trade with this firm. But we have a simple equity curve here. We put in 100K. We have a 36% win rate, which is a little bit lower than what we have in the data here, but it doesn't go into decimals. We have a fixed 3 risk to reward like our strategy. And then we just did 1,000 iterations because that is their maximum. And as you can see, this is the consistency of the equity curve over time. You can see that real long-term consistency in the strategy and the edge. But most importantly, keep in mind with a break-even rule, this actually increases the amount of not only profit, but how the equity curve looks in the overall slope of your profit. Because it's going to actually maintain the amount of profit you're making here, but decrease the amount of losses and -1 occurrences on the account. And here's just some extra data down the bottom here that they provide with the equity simulator. And hopefully as well, you guys can see my journal and kind of get an idea of that consistency as well with the longer term edge, 2024 and 2025. But with enough of the data behind us, let's keep diving into some more of my trades here. We have EURGBP, which is going to be next. Now this trade was fairly simple and it took a little bit longer for it to play out for me. But once again, looking at the chart very simply, I can tell we are in a bullish trend. We see a sweep of liquidity, a very significant one here. Just represents that a lot of people with trailing stops or pending orders at the low or at highs of the market. We see that price very quickly and aggressively reaches below that, once again converting those orders into very high bullish volume, following that overall trend, creating the break of structure and leaving behind that fair value gap. For me, very simply, on the 4-hour time frame, all of our rules are met, so I can then drag my fib from the low to the high to keep that consistent entry at the 75%. Price works its way down and into our entry level here. It consolidates a little bit, coming very close to our risk-free level, but inevitably falls through stop loss once again, resulting in a -1 RR or -2% on my personal account. And the next trade we are going to be going over is Pound CAD. Now this one is a winning trade scenario. Keep in mind the same simple rules are followed as the previous two. When I take 2 losses in a row, I don't get anxious. I don't lose confidence in the strategy. I understand the long-term data and the long-term profitability, and it all boils down to that probability of your edge. So I'm very confident when this third trade setup came around, we have a very high volume bearish move following that overall bullish trend here, and then a break of structure to the upside with a fair value gap showing that high volume once again. I simply drag my fib from the low to the high of the range as always. I get tapped in here and very quickly and aggressively we move towards that take profit, making me a 3 risk to reward or an overall gain of about 6% on my personal account, minus a little bit of slippage and fees. So overall, this 6% gain here negates both of the -2% losses we talked about for an overall net gain of about 2% in the sequence we're looking at. And just last but not least, very quickly, we will take a look at pound US dollar here. Now, this one was a break-even position, and it's actually currently still running technically for those in my community that don't use break-even. But once again, very simply, and almost identical to the previous trade we looked at, the very aggressive and impulsive bearish move, showing that high volume, a break of structure to the upside, a very clear bullish trend, and then a fair value gap like we always look for. We draw the fib from the low to the high of the range, enter at the 75%. So you can see we got tapped in here. Price very quickly reached my risk-free level, meaning I take my stop loss here and I move it to the break-even line. Some people ask about this. I do tend to put it a little bit above the break-even line. It just helps cover fees for me and slippage. I actually have a trade assistant that's set to do that itself. And then price very quickly comes down and taps me out at that break-even level for an overall gain of about 0.05% on my account. So very, very small, but that's kind of why I do drag my stop loss a little above the level, just to make sure I cover fees and slippage. And as you can see, those last 4 trades account for this last little piece in the equity curve here. We could see the 2 losers, the 1 winner, and then that 1 break even, just slightly improving the equity curve and giving us that long-term consistency that we're seeing so far in 2025. But that is going to be all for this video. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Once again, don't forget to download this strategy in the description. It is completely free, and you can always reach out to me on Discord as well with any questions. I get them all the time from subscribers, and I have no problem helping. I can share some of my recent trades I'm in. I can help you with any questions you have regarding the entry or risk management. And last but not least, don't forget that FxReplay code I mentioned. It is a huge software to help you with actual data-driven decision-making in your trading, which is by far the most important aspect to number 1, your confidence, and number 2, knowing that what you do works in the long term. I promise if you do not have data that proves your strategy in the long term, you are not taking trading as serious as you may believe. And it is one of the main reasons why we can account for one of the highest funded member to member ratios out of any Discord community on YouTube. We have nearly 50 funded members in our trading server, and it climbs every single day. And this is because we really enforce the idea of 1,000 trades of backtested data, nearly 30,000 trades as a whole for repetitions on this exact trading strategy. We do not change the strategy. We do not waver since the day we have opened. And this is the importance of a community and a strong-minded foundation, as well as surrounding yourself with nearly 50 different funded traders who have already achieved the goals you want, and being able to share trades and interact with them every single day. If you want to join this community, it's always in the description, and all of the information is on our website. Or once again, you can reach out to me on Discord. My username is jblaisdell729 here, and I can answer any questions you have or help you get started. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate my subscribers who tune in every week and enjoy the videos. We had a pretty packed one today, so I hope you appreciate it, and I will see you guys in next week's video.